All right, I'm here with General Charles Hood. General Charles Hood, who wrote a great book, and this book is called From Tracks to the Stars. And we're glad to have you. We're glad to have you today with us, General Hood. How you doing today, sir?
I'm just fine, just fine.
Well, tell us a little bit about General Hood. Can you just kind of tell me? I know you moved up through the ranks from being a lieutenant and going into the service. After reading your book, I understand that you had a bright career in the service. So tell us your progression in terms of becoming a general. First of all.
Well, first let me make sure that the title of the book is From the End of the Tracks to the Stars.
All right, from the end of the tracks. All right.
That is a key to it, in that I came upon that from the fact that I'm from Richmond, Virginia, originally. And Richmond, Virginia, go back, do a little history, in 1889 became one of the first cities to have electric trolleys for transporting people. Other cities had trolleys, but they transported materials.
Mm-hmm.
But for a nickel, you could get on the trolley in Richmond. And Richmond, like Rome, is built on hills. Well, the eastern end of the is called Churchill. You'll know Churchill by the great speech that said, "Give me liberty or give me death." Patrick Henry's speech was given on Churchill in preparation for the Revolution. Anyway, the trolley line went, the east and west and north and south, but the end of the tracks, or the east end on Churchill, was ended in the front of the house that I was born in.
Okay. So that's why the tracks is stars.
So I'm not from the other side of the track. I'm from the end of the tracks. That's where the tracks ended. The conductor got out through the switches and changed the seats back, and they went back the other way. So, but I was at the. So that's how I come with the end of the tracks.
All right.
Well, how did I? The way I got to become the progression to become a general officer came basically from my childhood growing up.
Mm-hmm.
That was the foundation. Just like when you build a house, and you want a firm foundation to make sure that everything is going well. Well, growing up, I was born in 1936. And in the book, there's a picture of me at 4 years old in front of our Easter, in front of our house on P Street, 29th and P Street. Patrick Henry gave his speech at 25th and Gray Street, St. John's Church, which is about 6 blocks away. But anyway, not at the same time. We've had a few years different.
All right.
So anyway, so that was our family, and this was in front of the rental house that we were in at that time. And my parents, and just like as I say in the book, the moving on up to the east side. So my whole family, my grandmother, 2 aunts, and cousin, and my immediate family, my mom and dad, and my brothers and sisters. I was the youngest of 5, and our immediate family lived on the 2nd floor. My grandmother and her 2 daughters were on the 1st floor. But anyway, they got together, got their coins together, and they bought a house. So we moved from rental, in 1940, we moved from rental to purchase. And so that's where I look at it as moving on up.
Mm-hmm.
And so we moved to Clay Street, and Clay Street, there's another thing, significant part of history was that the White House of the Confederacy was on Clay Street. And, but it was on the other side of the town. But that's where we live. We live at 2905 Clay Street. So a part of my motivation in writing the book, and many people have been saying along the way, you need tell people, say something and let people know about your life and how you got to be a general. Well, it was about a lot of other people other than me that made it possible. A lot of incidences in my life came about uh, with, through my family, and also people that I ran in contact with. Uh, my teachers. I gave a speech once at a high school graduation in Richmond some years when I was a general officer, and I made the statement that although segregation was bad, there were some things about it, having segregated schools, that worked for the good. And there was a great hush over the audience because I said that. But what my point was, and I went on to clarify, is the teachers that I had were invested in my success. So the teachers were the ones who made it possible for me to really just put it on me. And they were in the community. And so if you're not doing well, mom and dad knew about it. And they wanted to make sure that you were a successful person. Uh,
I read that part in your book, and a lot of people say that today this the integration really created a bigger problem for us in many areas than it was when we were segregated. Because as you said, that when the teachers really cared about the students and they poured into the students, and even I was born in the '50s, but even then teachers made sure that my teacher lived 2 blocks behind me, in elementary school. So if I cut up, and then they went to the same church that I went to, so I couldn't. It was more about community and more about investing in us as young people, making sure that we were going to be productive citizens in society. So yes, sir, I read that book, part of your book, and I really appreciated that, because what you said was what many people are saying today. Because a part of segregation, we lost really identity in terms of caring about our community and the young people in our community. So yeah, absolutely, I agree with you on that.
yeah. And so, as a matter of fact, when the announcement was made on the desegregation of schools, I was a senior in high school, and they brought all of us together in the library and in the auditorium to hear the message that came out about the desegregation of schools. And so, anyway, so this was one of the historical points, another one of the historical points in my life. Uh, how do you want me to go about this? Because
let me just share. As you're sharing your progression in terms of how you got there. I know you were a cadet when you were younger, and kind of gave you some inspiration to wanting to be in the service, and how you got in the service, having gone to Hampton and met your wife, and then your later career, and meeting guys that was in the Virgin Island who you went to school with, and established those relationships that helped you later on, as you said earlier, relationships that were in your life that helped you from your career. You talked about that from being, with your parents and your aunties and your grandmother. And now you've talked about the fact of being in school and how teachers poured into you in school. And now if you would now just kind of talk about, your military career in terms of that, and that progression as to how you got to be a general from that perspective, after having graduated from Hampton and all those kinds of things that you had to go through. We're not going to talk about your brother on today, but they can read the book to find out about your brother and how he poured into you, making sure you was going to be able to go to college and be successful in college. But if you want to touch that, you certainly can. That's up to you. And how you met your beautiful wife at Hampton University.
Okay. Well, what happened also is that my dad was in the Navy in World War I.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a copy of the Liberty Pass that he had. His ship was in Bremerhaven, Germany, which allowed him to go to Paris. back in 1919, I think it was 1918, 1919, 19, I think it was. But anyway, but and then I said that I was born in 1936, and we moved in 1940. Well, World War II started in 41, and my oldest brother was drafted into the Army. And then my brother next to him enlisted in the Navy. And so I grew up in a time of war, a time also for that was a means of progression within especially in the black community, uh, an opportunity to grow and develop into the middle class. Uh, as you got out your VA, they got out and became, and the post office was significant in that. Uh, well, somehow my phone is going crazy.
That's all right, dude. Yeah, we good. Just keep on with the conversation. We good. I know your phone's going crazy, but we good. We good. We hear what you're saying because that's the important part about your progression. Because I have a cousin who went to Fort Valley State, graduated as a second commission lieutenant, and then went on to end up retiring as a lieutenant colonel, right? So his progression in terms of making it through the military, and I know that you were part of the ROTC when you were at Hampton, and how you got your commission and what have you. That's really
Okay.
what I'm talking about, because see, you are a living example of what a black man could do in the military, and how you moved to the military, and how you retired and then came back into the military and served with an appointment in the Virgin Islands. So I just want to let people understand that when you say from the tracks, at the end of the track, you started from a lowly position in life, but you moved on through the military and became a retired general.
Yeah. Okay. As a matter of fact, I was just reflecting on that part about being in the cadet corps. Everybody was marching, and so I joined in high school the cadet corps. And in the cadet corps, of course, that's what we did. We marched. But we became the first black cadet unit to march in an inaugural parade for the governor of Virginia. And so, and I talk about it in the book that also had a price that I had to pay with that. In that, my math instructor and homeroom teacher, Miss Harrington, said, "Mr. Hood, you have an exam on that day, and you need to make a decision. It's what you're going to do." And I said, "Miss Harrington, I have an excuse. I have a pass from Mr. Crawford that I can march in the parade." She said, "Okay, well, you make your decisions, because this is something you're going to have to do in life, is to make decisions." And so I made the decision. Well, this was toward the end of the semester, and so I came back in my homeroom teacher, and I got my report card, and that was a big F, of course, in trigonometry. I mean, solid geometry. And because he said, "Well, Mr. Hood, I told you there was an important exam, and you made a choice." And so this is something else that comes out for those people who are looking at young people growing up. You make sure you make wise choices, because that F stayed in my record all through. Whenever I applied to college, advanced college, and whatever, that F was on my report. I don't know if she thought about that far in advance, but anyway. So, but that's an aside. But I marched in that parade, and it was significant. Then I went on to Hampton, and then at Hampton, well, it was a land grant college, and all land grant colleges at that time had a requirement for the first 2 years. All eligible males had a requirement to be in ROTC. And then when you got to just before going into your junior year, you had an opportunity to apply to go into advanced ROTC. And so and we liked that very much because we got a little bit of money for that stipend, a little stipend for doing that. And the stipend was 90 cents a day.
Oh
Uh,
man.
so we didn't like February very much because it didn't have enough days in it. But the December 31 day months, we just loved those because that gave us $27. Uh, we really are in high cotton at that point. So I was in the, I think significant to that, my becoming a general officer, and also my linkage with the Virgin Islands. And also my belief that the finger of God was moving throughout my life and in circumstances that arose. Uh, we decided I was going to go to Hampton. I had a scholarship to Morehouse, scholarship to Howard, and then to Hampton. And so I went down to the train station and got on the train to go to Hampton. Uh, and at that time, you had the colored car. This was doing some segregation. So I got on the colored car, and there was a seat available sitting next to this guy. And I sat next to him, and we talked as best we could because he had a tremendous accent. And he was from the Virgin Islands. His name was Rudolph A. Francis. Well, after he introduced himself, I got to say, well, you're Rudolph A. Francis. My brother's name is Rudolph A. Hood. And so we had that commonality from getting on the train. And so when we got down, he became my roommate in my freshman year at Hampton. And later on, he'll come back again about 30 years later. When the opportunity to become a general officer was significant. Because, I guess I'll put this in right now, is because one of the requirements, at that time, the Virgin Islands, Guam, and the military district of Washington, the adjutant general or the person commander of it was appointed by the president of the United States, and he had those three. The governors of states appointed theirs, but those three were appointed by the president. And so when that came up and throughout the process, one of the conditions you had to be a resident of the Virgin Islands. So then when I got on the phone and I called this guy, Rudolph A. Francis, who lived in St. Thomas, Virgin Islands. And he then provided me with his condo that he had in St. Croix, which allowed me to become a resident of the Virgin Islands. Have residency in the Virgin Islands. But anyway, as we go forward through I work with I give them some credit to the Marriott Hotel we know today. Before they were in the food business, and they opened what was called the first cafeteria in the South in Richmond, Virginia. And the guys were going down washing dishes, and and that was great because another thing about finances, you talk about finances there, because we would work 7 hours from 4 o'clock until 11 o'clock at night. You could only work 4 days a week if you're a student. 4 days a week, 2 days during the week, and then Saturday and Sunday, if the opportunity was available. And we made a whole bunch of those 4 days. We made $16 a week. So you add that $16 with that, and we loved wearing those Stacey Adams shoes. That's what we wore in our community. We didn't wear jeans and all those kind. We wore starch khakis and the old soft leather Florsheim or Stacey Adams shoes. That's what we wore. And a pair of shoes cost $21. So and they were the real expensive ones. And so we put that on layaway, of course, and we went on to that. Well, anyway, so as I went through working with the hot shops and through Marriott's. They made and they realized I was going to go to college. I was going to college, and so they said, for a black kid, that job opportunity, a college kid, in any, I don't know, any black kid, job opportunities were few and far between that were paid any money. And so over time, they created a job, or the manager created a job for me as assistant buyer, purchasing disposable goods. That the rest of the stuff didn't have to come out of Washington. So anyway, people just picked me up and gave me an opportunity, and that's another reason I wanted to write the book, is to identify the people. I regret that it took so long for me to do it, because many of the people that I wanted to give credit to and honor have passed away, and they're not here to really receive their flowers or smell their roses, or to hear to thank you for what they've done and what made it made possible. So upon I stayed with them from my junior year in high school through college. Whenever I came home from college, I could go by and they'd have a job for me, put me to work during holidays and everything like that. And also, when I was commissioned, I had a delay in my commissioning. I was commissioned in '59, but I was not to go on active duty till February of '60. So this was the part of the time that they provided opportunity for me to really work with them. And so when you go to a Marriott hotel, you see a picture of two tall men standing there, Bill and I forgot the other, Marriott. But those are two brothers. I washed dishes with those guys back years ago when I was a dishwasher in the hot shop's cafeteria. So upon commissioning, we were about to leave. They gave me a going away party, and in the going away party, they said they had a magazine called The Hot Sauce, and in the Hot Sauce they had an article written up that said that Lieutenant Hood was going into the Army and was going to become a general officer. Well, that became a joke in the black community. They said a white person wrote that because there are no black generals. The great expectation of going into the military was to stay 20 years, get, if possible, reach the rank of major, you come out, and many people get out and go for the post office, well, or other jobs like that. And so this is so. But anyway, so that was that article, and became a big joke in the community, saying Lieutenant Hood was going to become a general. Well, one other thing I want to add here is when I graduated from high school, our baccalaureate service that Sunday, the speaker was one that you people very familiar with, was Benjamin E. Mays. And I don't know how all of a sudden, just as I was preparing and going through this, it came to me about what the subject was that he had for that day. And his subject for that baccalaureate message was to look to the stars, see the stars. And that I look back now and say that was a prophetic message to seek the stars. Get your head out of the ground and look for the stars.
So if you had anyone, we had to wrap this up. But if you had anyone that's listening to this, young person that's listening, or a person that's thinking about going into the military, what would you say to them? No matter where you start off in life, what would you say to them to encourage them to let them know that they too can reach for the stars and have a great career? Is it establishing good relationships? Is it your faith in God? Is it your family values? what would you be able to say to them to just give them some encouragement? Because you're an example of somebody who moved all the way up through the ranks and became a general. And not just a soldier, not just a lieutenant, but a general, a commander over troops, companies, and everything. How? What would you say to them just to encourage them that they might read your book and find in your book?
Well, all of those things that you just said, all those things are, for me, religious walk, my walk with the family, the doing that which is right. Be a person of your word. Be of integrity. Have integrity. Be of good character. Now, one of the things when had been in the army for a year and a half, I was working for, and I still talk about this in the book. I was working. I was assistant S3 operations officer. I was working for another black officer, and he had to write a report on me, and he called me in at 6 o'clock one morning, and he wanted to talk to me and give me advice on my future in the military. And to be perfectly blunt, he says, "Charlie, get the hell out of the army. You'll never be successful."
Mm.
And I heard what he said. And if I had taken what he said, I would accept it, and I never would have gone any further. However, there was a Irish executive officer who was a white Irishman, Major McConnell. When I put in a request for a reassignment, he said, "You're going to be a career officer." And he was in 4 different occasions in my life throughout my military that he was present and got me through. But the thing about it was that would demonstrate moral courage. When later General Rogers, who was my advisor at that time, and when I made colonel, he came and pinned one of my eagles on. He was the one who told me I wasn't going to be successful. But anyway, the thing about it, but don't be discouraged by what other people say. Look inwardly. Do what is right. Be guided by positive principles. We've got some bad examples right now from my perspective as to leadership. But the thing about it is, be a person of your word. When you say you're going to be there at 6 o'clock, be there at 10 minutes to 6 at the earliest. Be on time. Be prepared. When you given assignments, and like I say, these are the things I spelled out. This is not a how-to book, but this is a book of how I met the challenges of my life and how I was able to. Other people saw in me a perspective, an outlook, and were willing to invest in me. You can have all of the degrees, smarts, and everything else, but if you don't have the opportunity, you will never be successful.
Now tell them how they can get this book. From the
You can get the book. One way is to go to www.generalhood.army. That is one way. Another way is you can contact me direct. That is at hoodcharles0809 at gmail.com. And Dennis, you can get an autographed copy. I got a hard copy is $65. The soft copy is $55. But when you go through and you order it from www, it is an unsigned copy. When you contact me directly, or you can call me at 404-376-4971. It's 404-376-4971. Then we can coordinate and we can pay through Cash App or whatever, or by check, and I can send. But then there'll be $65 plus $10 for mailing. But you can get an autographed copy. That's where you can get an autographed copy.
All right. Well, thank you so much, General Hood, for your service. First of all, I want to thank you for your service. And what I've gleaned from you, General Hood, from your life story in this book is that because of what your parents poured into you, what the community poured into you, your faith in God, and your attitude, because your attitude helped you in your relationships as you move forward in your career in the military. And one thing that you said that was definitely true that people need to understand: don't let people discourage you because they say what they say. If God has called you to it, He'll take you through it. Thank you so much, General Hood, for your book, and thank you for your time.
One other thing before I close, but I later on I learned during a stressful time when I was a battalion commander, a key verse in the Bible, which is Colossians 3:23. It says, "In all you do, do heartily as to the Lord, and not unto man." Don't be men pleasers, but please what God do to please what God has said, and that is what will carry you through.
Thank you so much, sir. Well, God bless you. And again, thank you for your service. And do say hi to your lovely wife, okay?
I sure will. I sure will.
All righty. God bless.